Every year in August, Marion, Ohio is home to a show called Summerrail. The train show involves vendors, a slideshow from various eras, and of course, Marion's famous train watching. I got to Marion at just after 9 a.m. on August 10th, 2024. CSX train I-007 was only about 5 minutes behind me, and here he is passing the museum. I-007 was extremely late today. He normally passes through Marion at just before 3 a.m. Today, he's passing at just before 9:30. After I-007, there were 3 northbounds in the picture, 1 on the NS, 2 on the C&O side. Knowing I wasn't going to be able to shoot all 3 at the same time, I decided to zero in on the C&O side of things because I think the action was much more interesting over there. The first of the northbound C&O trains is C509, loaded coal hoppers for the dockyard at Toledo. In case if you want to know what the NS train is in the background, it is a northbound manifest freight. I never got the train number for it. About 10 minutes later, northbound L456 on the C&O passes by the station. L456 had gotten here long before I did, and had just finished dropping off the Marion cut in the MD siding and had backed down onto his train when I got there. He will follow the coal train all the way to Cary, where he will make a pickup. At this point, a northbound NS train is heard, and we turn around to just miss the engines. Once again, we got no train number. After about half an hour, another meet is set to take place, this time on the NS side between NS trains 11E and 270. Unfortunately, due to the way the sun was positioned, I had to set up on the daylight side of the curve, meaning we're only going to get to see 11E. A leased GP39-2 is trailing dead in tow on today's M331. I'm only speculating as to why this unit was on this train, but I'm pretty sure it was returning from the locomotive shop in Cumberland after receiving regular maintenance. After the N331, we learned that there were 3 trains on the Sandusky district needing to pass through, 1 northbound and 2 southbound. The northbound train is 271, the sister train to the 270 we saw going south earlier. At the time this footage was shot on August 10th, these trains were Columbus, Ohio to Chicago and vice versa trains. But at the time this video is posted, they have since been extended to Norfolk, Virginia. The southbound comes by just a few minutes later, and it turns out to be a manifest freight. Once again, I am stumped as to who this guy is, but I'm pretty sure it was southbound 171 on its daily run from Conway to Chattanooga. About 20 minutes later came the red-hot Norfolk Southern 28N. If you have seen my 2 previous videos, and if not, please do, you would know that 28N is a Chicago, Illinois to Charlotte, North Carolina UPS train. A no doubt about it type shipment. Today, there's nothing out of the ordinary with this train. J.B. Hunt, Amazon Prime, and United Parcel Service trailers make up his usual cargo. Immediately afterwards, CSX lines their route for their own red-hot train, I-008. As you can probably tell, I-008 is the eastbound version to the I-007 that came through earlier. For the longest time, I-008 was CSX's version of Conrail train Mail 44. I-008 ran from East St. Louis all the way to Kearney, New Jersey, and I-007 ran the opposite route. Earlier this year, these trains were cut back to Syracuse, but they still originate and terminate in East St. Louis. The Columbus sub lights up again in the form of 2 southbound trains that were in the picture. The first southbound to arrive is E601. Coal empties off the Indiana Harbor Belt at Gibson, Indiana. The other southbound on the C&O wasn't going to be here for some time. Knowing this, I decided to break off and go get myself something to eat. The other southbound train turns out to be my old buddy, train M635, Selkirk, New York to Columbus, Ohio manifest freight and trash. The stone hoppers at the front end of the train were just picked up at Cary and are destined for the Ohio Central. For the past couple hours, Norfolk Southern Train 116 has been working Marion Yard, and as a result was blocking the Indy Line Diamond. The CSX Indy Line dispatcher had some very wise words to say to the NS guys, and after convincing NS to get out of the way, he turns his stuff loose. Now I guess the CSX dispatcher knows how the NS people feel when 216 blocks the diamond for hours on end. In the meantime though, CSX train M332, the eastbound version of M331, comes across the diamond heading for Cumberland, Maryland. About 5 minutes later, here comes westbound autorack train M205. Today's 205 is destined for the Marysville Honda plant and has all empty racks. After M205, the CSX-IE dispatcher didn't have anything in the vicinity for the next few hours, giving the NS guys and the CSX C&O dispatcher free rein to run whatever they wanted. Norfolk Southern immediately obliges, running a northbound manifest freight across. Once again, I am stumped on the train number, but I'm making a guess it was 170. Astonishingly, the Columbus sub lights up again, in the form of northbound coal train C501. This was the shot I had been waiting for all day. The inside view of the curb on the Columbus sub in Marion is probably the best shot that Marion has to offer. Not only does the sun face it in the afternoon, but it creates an epic picture of northbound trains. After 4 hours of working, Norfolk Southern Train 116 is ready to go. Check out the power lash up on this train. What is believed to be the last white-faced -940 CW on Norfolk Southern's roster is leading 116 to Portsmouth with the slug set dead in tow. This arguably was the highlight of the day. At least for me it was. Northbound NS Train 19M meets the 116 right on the diamond here at Marion. 2 SD70 Aces is all he needs to get this short train to Elkhart. After finishing his work, M216 is on the move east. He would make it to Crestline in just enough time before the crew hours expired. Darkness is fast approaching. After all, this is August. But even with nighttime coming, the railroad never stops. NS train 18W is next through the plant, and there's another train right behind this. Another 171 comes across the diamond heading south. This was the second one of the day. In a moment that stuns me and a lot of others there, the Columbus sub lights up again with northbound coal train C613. In the time frame that I was here, there were 6 trains on the Columbus sub. This doesn't happen often anymore, and given that this is my home territory, it was a nice treat. After the coal train, nothing moved until after dusk. Another rack train appears in the form of what I believe to be M276, but I never heard a train ID. I intended to make this my last train. However, me being a dumbass, I was a little bit, intoxicated, and so I didn't feel safe driving home. I decided to wait a couple hours until I was sober again. Now, given that this is Marion and it is a really bad place to be at night, I wouldn't have done this. But given that there was over a dozen people here, I felt safe. Even though I was a little bit intoxicated, I still felt good enough that I could shoot trains. Northbound NS Train 273 comes by, heading for Detroit. Right behind the previous double-stack train is another one. I have legit zero clue as to who this train's identity is. In what appears to be a response to CSX's coal trains, Norfolk Southern sends one of their own. The engineer called out an 800 series number, but I didn't hear what it was fully. By this point, it was nearing 11 o'clock, and I felt sober enough that I could drive home. But before I could think about going anywhere, the Indy Line's radio channel lit up with a westbound, and so I stuck around to see who it was. The train is westbound Manifest Freight M363, Selkirk, New York to Avon, Indiana. The engineer lays down on the horn for all the rail fans outside the station. After M363, that concluded Summerrail for me. I had been out here way longer than I wanted to be, and being drunk wasn't exactly a pleasant experience, so I went home and slept it off. But I came back a few nights later for this. Norfolk Southern train number 955, the Office Cars Special, Deadheading to Irondale, Alabama. With this train's passage, the Summerrail show comes to a close. The next order of business, the Chicago area. But that's a story for another time. So until then, I'm signing off, and as always, go Buckeyes!